Hello, my name is Linda, a teacher at Youth English School. Today we will learn more linking words to show if you want to add more ideas to your argument or something that totally different meaning to contrast the ideas. First of all, we'll learn the linking words to add more ideas. We can have also as well in addition, or another word is what's more. So what's the difference of these words? You can totally use all these four words to add more opinion to the previous opinion. But for and also as well, you add two ideas. Well, you have two ideas in the same sentence. For example, the food is excellent and very good value. So you can say that excellent and good value all belongs to the subject, the food. So two ideas in one sentence. With the restaurant has excellent food is also very good value. So you can divide this sentence into two, pretty much the same meaning, excellent food and very good value. Also, you can use in a separate sentence to describe, to add more ideas to the previous one. With as well, you can say the food is excellent in that restaurant. Is very good value as well. Or you can say too. But if you want to say too, then before that you should use a comma. Okay? You get very good food in that restaurant. What's more, comma, is open every day of the week. So the second sentence, adding more ideas to the first one, and then you can use what's more to, it's like a linking words to kind of connect the two sentences. But remember that after the word what's more, you should have the comma here. The last one, the set menu is £15, which is excellent value. In addition, they give you a free glass of wine. So you can have the word in addition to add one more ideas to the sentence. And make sure that you have the comma after in addition. It's like with what's more, alright? With as well, also, or and, you don't need to use the comma, but with what's more and in addition. Normally, when you use at the beginning of the sentence, after that you should use the comma. So those are the words you can use to say, about addition of action or of meaning of something. So, move on to the words to describe contrast of ideas. You can have although, despite, in spite of. With although, you use a clause after that. She still won the game, although she had a bad knee. Although and though have same meaning, you can use either of them, it's fine. In this case, you can see that this person had a bad knee, which is a bad health condition, but she still won the game. If you use the word still, it emphasizes on the action that happens despite, other negative factors. We can have another example is, although some people were getting tired, we decided to carry on a bit longer. So two of the clauses have totally different meaning or have contrast meaning. You can use although, and then a clause, and then comma, and then another clause, okay? Never connect these sentences without a comma because you can see that totally two contrast phrases or two contrast clauses in the same sentence separately by the comma, so it's easier for people to understand. So make sure that you use this one. Alright, with despite and in spite of. They have the same meaning to show the contrast of ideas, just as although. But the usage of despite and in spite of a little bit different. With despite, you have to use the words the fact that and then the clause. You can't use despite and then clause, okay? They went for a walk despite the fact that it was raining. So you can't say they went for a walk despite it was raining. No, you can't do that. So make sure that if after the word despite is a clause, you should add the words the fact that. So despite the fact that, and then a clause. Now, if you want to use despite or in spite of, and then you can say with a noun or the verb in form of the verbs. So not with a clause, okay? Make sure that you remember despite the fact that and clause. If you want to say despite or in spite of directly, it should be with the noun or the verb in form of the verbs. So you say, despite having no money, he still seemed very happy. So we have the verb in form of the verb have. They got there on time in spite of the delay. So in spite of the delay here is a noun. In spite of all the problems, we still enjoy the trip. So all the problems, it's a group of nouns or a nouns in the plural form. So I want to emphasize again, if you want to use despite and a clause to follow, make sure you use the words the fact that. But if you want to say despite or in spite of, not with a clause, okay? With the noun or with the verbs in the ing form. To say the contrast meaning of two ideas, you can use the words but, however, or though. But the differences of these words are, for but you can use to contrast two ideas in one sentence. For example, I want to go home, but I have lots of things to do. So there's just one sentence. For however, you can say two contrast ideas, but in two sentences. For example, I want to go home, full stop. However, I have lots of things to do. For though comes at the end of the clause. I have lots of things to do. I want to go home though. So though stands at the end of the sentence, but to show the totally contrast meaning of the idea. We can have examples here. I don't agree with lots of his method. However, he is a good teacher. So we can see this is sentence number 1, sentence number 2. Totally contrast meaning of two sentences. We didn't like the town that much. However, the hotel was wonderful. Remember for me that after however you should use a comma. Don't forget this one, or it is a mistake. We don't use the comma in this case. With though, we see that in these two examples, they use though at the end of the sentence, separate from the sentence with a comma as well. And normally, though is used in spoken English more often. I didn't like the film at all. It was better than sitting at home, though. So, they told us the shop was next to the station. We never found it, though. So, though is more in spoken English more than in written English. Okay. We have two words, whereas and however, to both describe contrast of a fact or opinion about one person, place or thing, but there is one difference between using these words. Whereas contrasts two ideas in a single sentence, with however, describe two contrast ideas in two separate sentences, as we've seen in the previous example. We can see here, the south is hot and dry, whereas the north gets a lot of rain. So we see two contrast ideas about the south and the north, separate by the word whereas, and they're both in one sentence. Sarah is careful, whereas Christopher makes lots of mistakes. So they connect two clauses in one sentence as well. Most big cats, such as tigers, like to live alone. Lions, however, spend a lot of time in groups. It should be a lot of time in here. So you can see that for however, it describes a different meaning or a contrast of ideas with the previous sentence, but it's in two sentences, not in one like with whereas, okay? And you can put however after the subject of the sentence, but separate with the commas here. Another example with however standing at the beginning of a sentence. Marcel said it was very interesting. However, most of them thought it was a fairly stupid film. So in this case, however, stand at the beginning of the sentence. Make sure you use the comma after the word however. So whereas used for two ideas, totally different contrast meaning in one sentence, and for however is two contrast ideas of two sentences separately. And make sure you use them with the comma. Whereas you don't need to use the comma before or after. Okay, move to the exercise for you to practice what you've learned from the lecture. With the first exercise, we have here 8 linking words. I want you to organize these words into 2 groups. The words that link ideas with a similar meaning and the words that link ideas with contrast meaning. It should be very easy. Okay, I'll just give you some time to do this exercise. Now, with the words to describe similar meanings, you can have, or in this column, we have although, however, whereas. We've learned in previous slides, they describe contrast ideas. We have what's more, so they have same meaning with and addition. So we have what's more to link ideas. In addition as well. Also to link ideas, similar ideas as well. But with despite, it has same meaning with these words to show the contrast. Okay. And these ones, similar meaning, okay? See, it's really, really easy. The next exercise. In this exercise, I give you sentences with the linking words, 2 linking words, at the same time. I want you to underline the correct words in the brackets. Sometimes both the words are correct. Right. So I'll give you some time to do this exercise. Okay, so you just have a look at 10 sentences of the second exercise. Now I'll just correct for you some sentences. I think it's pretty much easy and it's just from the lecture. For the first one, although or in spite of, we left late. We still got there in time. So with the meaning of this sentence, although these people left really late, they still got there in time. So it should be although. Well, you can underline this. Second, it was a fantastic evening, the terrible food. Now, in this case, you can see that terrible food is noun phrase. Although we don't use a noun phrase, and also from the meaning of the sentence, we can say it's in spite of. The key to do this exercise is sometimes, if you don't understand the meaning of a sentence because of new words, try to focus on the form of the words instead. Let's say if you don't understand anything of this one. But you can see that for terrible food, it is obviously a noun phrase, not a clause. If it is a clause, they don't use in spite of. They don't use although. They will use although. They won't use in spite of. So in this case, because you see this is a noun phrase, so you choose in spite of instead of although. Although you don't really understand the meaning of the sentence. So focus on the word forms instead. Okay, that's one key to do this exercise. Okay, let's move on to the third exercise. Alright, for the third exercise, I have these tables of 3 columns. For column A, I have one part of a sentence. Column B, I have the linking words. And column C, the second part of the sentences. I want you to connect the first part from column A with the second part of the sentence from column C with the suitable linking words. Okay? I'll give you some time to do this one. Okay, have you finished this exercise? I'll give you one example of, putting these ideas together. So you can see that he went to school today is the first phrase. You can read through this one first before you can use the linking words to see which phrase kind of match with this one. Well, it's not really what he wants. Maybe he's the most experienced. Not really, because going to school doesn't have anything to do with experience. The help I gave him, probably, he didn't feel very well. So he went to school today, although he didn't feel very well. Seems good to me. Most of his classmates were lazy. Well, actually, went to school today can't go with most of his classmates were lazy because, it doesn't have really like contrast meaning with this one. So you can use it with he didn't feel very well. So you say he went to school today and he didn't feel very well. But what words can you use to match these two together? So you can say he went to school today although he didn't feel very well. So you can match these two. Okay, you can't use whereas because it's something that happens kind of at the same time. What's more to add more ideas so it doesn't really suit in this case. So you can say he went to school today although he didn't feel very well. Okay. For the other one, it's not really difficult to do. Right. With exercise number 4, we have the gap here or the space here for you to fill in with a suitable linking word or phrase. We will have 5 sentences. I'll give you some time to, revise all the linking words in the lecture and fill in these ones. Okay? Alright, with the first sentence is really easy to do. With the gap, something, the fact that they were busy, they still helped us. So you can notice the words, the fact that. Remember one word that I emphasized in the lecture that you always need to use with the phrase the fact that before you add a clause. That's the word despite. Alright? So despite the fact that. You can't say despite they were busy, okay? Another one, it took me 2 hours to do it. Something. The others finished in half an hour. So this one to shows comparison of contrast ideas. You can say whereas. Why? Because it shows contrast ideas, but still 2 clauses in one sentence, not in 2 separate sentences. So that's why I use whereas in this case. Okay, from number 3 to number 10 is pretty much easy. You can follow all the advice and the lecture notes from the previous slides. Okay, so that is the end of our lesson today about the linking words to show addition and contrast. I hope you remember that the words to show addition, like what's more, in addition as well, you can use to, that word as well. And the words to show contrast in 2 separate sentences, like however, although, though, or the word to show contrast ideas in one sentence, such as the word whereas. Okay, I hope this lesson is useful for you, especially in writing. Thank you for your attention. I'm Linda, English teacher at Youth English School.